You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
The Farooq Abdullah-led Gupkar Alliance has swept the most number of seats, while the BJP has emerged out to be the single largest majority in the first major local elections to be held in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir since the abrogation of Article 370 and the bifurcation of the erstwhile state in 2019. This was the first time that District Development Council elections or the DDC polls were held across 20 districts in Jammu and Kashmir in 8 phases over 25 days. But most importantly, this is the first exercise of democratic rights for the people of Kashmir after more than a year of a serious clampdown in the valley, several human rights abuses, and also arrests of several mainstream Kashmiri politicians. Now, the counting in some districts such as Bandipora and Kupwara were on hold at the time of the recording of this podcast, but with the results being declared for 278 out of the total 280 seats, it's quite clear who's winning and who's losing. The 7-party Gupkar Alliance, which includes former Chief Ministers Mehbooba Mufti's PDP and Mr. Abdullah's National Conference, secured 110 seats. Interestingly, as many as 49 seats were backed by independent candidates. The Congress Party won 26 seats, and as expected, the BJP won most of the Jammu province with 74 seats. While NC leader and former Chief Minister of the erstwhile state, Mr. Omar Abdullah, said that the results indicate how the people rejected the centre's decision to revoke Kashmir's special status, the BJP, which backed 3 seats in Kashmir for the first time, is seeing it as a sign of the lotus blooming in the valley. But what does this result mean for the People's Alliance for Gupkar Declaration and the BJP? Does this open up new political avenues in Kashmir? You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you. And I'm your host, Shalpuri. To analyze the DDC poll results, I have invited Aditya Menon, the Quint's political editor, who you've heard many times before in this podcast. Hi, Aditya.
Hi, Shalpuri.
Thanks for joining me in this podcast, and I know that you were keeping a keen eye over the election results the entire time. So would you say that the results were pretty much how it was expected to turn out? Clearly, there's a deep chasm between Jammu's and Kashmir's voters, or, was there any surprising element in there for you?
Actually, the BJP did perform a little below its expectations because, if we remember that in the 2014 assembly elections, BJP won 28 out of 37 Jammu seats. It couldn't win anything in Kashmir. So this was, close to 3/4 of the Jammu seats were won by the BJP. But now BJP won 74 out of 140 seats in Jammu. So this is just about 50%. So BJP would be a little disappointed with this. It swept all the Hindu-dominated areas in districts like Samba, Kathua, Riyasi and Jammu, but it couldn't really grow beyond that.
Right.
It made its presence felt in Kashmir, winning in a few places for the first time. But beyond that, it wasn't a really great electoral performance for the BJP. And the Gupkar parties, of course, can feel happy because the revocation of Article 370 and their prolonged incarceration was supposed to mean the end of their political relevance in Kashmir. But that hasn't happened, and they have done quite well, particularly the National Conference.
Speaking of, the BJP's performance, they're really playing up the fact that they have won 3 seats in Kashmir and they're, calling it a wave of change. So how do we see that?
Not quite a wave of change because these elections were held entirely under the control of the centre and the Jammu and Kashmir administration, which is both of which are under the BJP. Many of the Gupkar leaders like Wahid Parra were arrested even while the elections were going on. A day before results, Naeem Akhtar of the PDP was also under arrest. The entire system was sort of stacked against the Gupkar parties. So in that sense, it isn't a really a game-changing victory for the BJP, but it can draw solace from the fact that the the monopoly of the Gupkar parties, be it the PDP or the NC, has diluted a bit in Kashmir. Newer players have made their presence felt, like Apni Party of Altaf Bukhari, also known as the King's Party popularly in Kashmir, because everyone thinks that they've been propped up by the center, and also independents, as you mentioned earlier. So, and especially if you look at Srinagar, independents and the Apni party have done particularly well here. So, I mean, whenever there is political competition, whenever the monopoly of existing players is questioned, the center can feel happy about it. So, electorally, not a great performance for BJP, but politically, quite a win for the center.
And the stripping of statehood and the house arrests of top Kashmiri leaders have sort of essentially reconfigured the politics of Kashmir, right?
Absolutely.
The PDP and the NC, who have been bitter political rivals for decades, they came to a friendly understanding that manifested into the Gupkar Alliance with a common goal in mind, right? And that was quite interesting to see itself. And I also remember this, that when I'd spoken to the BJP spokesperson from Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Arun Gupta, for one of our older episodes, that was right when the alliance was formally declared. He had said that nobody is going to buy this narrative of this whole alliance, And then, of course, we saw Home Minister Amit Shah's Gupkar gang jibe at the alliance as well. Yet, none of that seemed to have worked on Kashmir's voters. This was a big win for the Gupkar alliance, right? Do you agree with that? Do you see this giving the Kashmir parties a better political bargain with the centre?
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that they managed to come together contrary to the expectations of the center, and that their workers who have been bitter rivals for at least 2.5 decades, they also managed to cooperate with each other on the ground and pull off such a creditable victory against the BJP and against some of the pro-BJP splinter parties in Kashmir. So that's quite creditable, and it will undoubtedly give them a greater bargaining power vis-a-vis the center. However, their electoral success would also scare the BJP a little, because then now the BJP would think that in case assembly elections are held in Jammu and Kashmir, the Gupkar parties would again come together and again pull off such a victory. So BJP might just be a bit wary of holding elections anytime soon.
And also, if we look at the breakup of the Gupkar Alliance numbers, the National Conference won the highest number of seats with 67 seats, followed by the PDP with 27 seats. So I want to know your opinion on that. Do you think that the PDP perhaps paid the price of its alliance with the BJP earlier?
Undoubtedly. I think the PDP made a huge error by aligning with the BJP in 2014, 2015. And of course, I mean, that ended up in quite a tragic way for the PDP. PDP's, it's not a cadre-based party like the National Conference. So PDP to a great extent relied on the cadre of the Jamaat-e-Islami, and one part of the Jamaat-e-Islami is also pro-separatist, but one part does tacitly back the PDP on ground. So, but the alliance with the BJP completely ruptured that link between PDP and Jamaat-e-Islami, and then of course the Burhan Wani's killing, and then of course the revocation of statehood completely ruined whatever chances PDP had of reviving that link. So it really didn't have much of a cadre base to fall back on, unlike the National Conference, which had still retained much of its old cadres despite the incarceration of its leaders and everything. So that's reflecting in the results, with the NC doing much better than the PDP.
And I'd also like to come back again to the performance showed by the independents in this election. This Indian Express report that I was reading, it said that the independent candidates together polled over 1.24 lakh votes, almost triple of what the PDP gained. So what do we make out of this mandate? Are the people of Kashmir indicating that they don't have faith in political parties anymore?
So it's a little complicated here because the PDP didn't contest a very large number of seats because of its alliance with the NC and other Gupkar parties. So in that sense, a little unfair to compare independents with PDP, because independents are there everywhere. There are many independents. So that's one problem. The second problem is that the votes for independents don't reflect the lack of faith in existing parties. The problem lies in the fact that the turnout itself was low. I mean, it was close to 30 odd percent in Kashmir. It was much higher in Jammu. I mean, many people didn't really turn up to vote for in these elections, and the turnout has been higher in previous assembly elections in Kashmir. So that is a bigger problem. And one doesn't know, many Kashmiris, particularly who are pro-separatists, would allege that even this 30% is not entirely legitimate. So obviously there is still a great deal of distrust with the democratic process itself, and not just a few parties.
And we've already talked about the BJP's performance, but do you think that the BJP-led centre has anything to gain from this election?
The centre is a big gainer in this election because they can easily showcase that this election shows that Jammu and Kashmir has turned towards the path of normalcy. There was almost no violent incident throughout the polling process. They can also showcase that the 30 odd percent turnout in Kashmir is a sign of people accepting the revocation of Article 370. Whether that's true or not is another matter, but at least the centre can claim that and is already claiming that. Then it will also claim that the Gupkar parties who are opposed to the revocation of statehood still participated in the electoral process. So that adds another bit of legitimacy to this election, which it didn't to the local body elections held earlier. So in that sense, centre can say that okay, it's business as usual in the new union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So yes, it's a win for the centre, but not quite for the BJP.
But the polls itself also bear a tremendous amount of significance, right? The Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly was dissolved in 2019, and the DDC polls are now aiming at reviving the Panchayati Raj system in Jammu and Kashmir. And let me also tell our listeners that each District Development Council will have 14 representatives, and they will be elected for a 5-year term. And these elected representatives will oversee the functioning of the panchayats and the block development councils. So effectively, the DDC is replacing the district planning and the development boards that was previously under a cabinet minister in the state. Aditya, do you see this election opening up a new political space in Kashmir as well?
I think I can't say it would open up new political space in Kashmir. It's a bit of a status quo election. It basically brings us partly where it was in 2014. But it's still not quite because I mean, if you look at 2014 Lok Sabha elections, we saw Farooq Abdullah being defeated by a PDP candidate, Tariq Ahmed Karra, and that for many Kashmiris that was a big thing, that that the mighty Farooq Abdullah had to face electoral defeat. For many people who didn't have faith in the electoral process, seeing Farooq Abdullah defeated was a big thing. And then, of course, in the 2014 assembly elections, because the BJP was making this big pitch for entry in Kashmir, many people who hadn't voted in 30 years came out and voted. So that was a high point as far as democracy in Kashmir was concerned. We are still not there. We are about halfway there in these DDC elections, and there's still a long way to go for people to regain that kind of faith in the process.
And that's all we have for this episode. And thanks a lot, Aditya, for joining me in this podcast and offering your analysis on the election results.
Thank you, Shobri.
Also, do check out Aditya's analytical piece on the election results on the Quint website. If you like listening to this episode, please subscribe to the Big Story playlist for episodic updates. We're live on Apple, Google Podcast, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website and check out the podcast section. For any feedback, shoot an email to podcasts@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.